The Survival Mindset, Exploring the Roots of Negativity Bias. 1. Survival Instincts. In the vast saga of human evolution, our brains have been hardwired for survival. Think of it like this. Imagine our ancestors wandering the wild, with danger lurking around every corner. To make it through, they had to be on constant alert, always ready to jump at the slightest hint of trouble. This instinct, honed over millennia, still resides within us today, even though we're not dodging saber-toothed tigers anymore. It's like having a mental security system that's always scanning for potential threats, just in case. 2. Primal fear. Picture this, you're part of a tight-knit tribe, where survival depends on everyone sticking together. In those ancient days, getting kicked out of the group could mean certain death, as you'd be left to fend for yourself against the elements and predators. So, it's no wonder that we've developed a deep-seated fear of rejection. Even though we now live in a world where being excluded from a social circle doesn't mean facing down a pack of hungry wolves, that primal fear still lingers, making rejection sting more than it probably should. 3. Cognitive dissonance. Imagine if your brain was a time traveler, still stuck in the past while your body's living in the present. That's kind of what's happening with our negativity bias. Back in the day, being hyper-aware of potential dangers was a lifesaver. But nowadays, when the biggest threat to our well-being might be a harsh comment on social media, our ancient instincts can seem a bit out of touch. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Our brains are struggling to reconcile the world they evolved in with the one we're living in now. 4. Amplification of negativity. Ever notice how one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch? That's a bit like how our brains work when it comes to negativity. For some reason, our minds have this weird habit of latching onto negative stuff way more than positive stuff. It's like our brains have built-in megaphones for bad news, while good news barely gets a whisper. So, even though we might have a dozen things going right in our lives, that one tiny hiccup can feel like the end of the world. 5. Perception versus reality. Here's the thing about our brains, they're not always the best at telling fact from fiction. Sometimes, our minds can take a little nugget of negativity and blow it way out of proportion. It's like looking through a warped funhouse mirror. What we see isn't always an accurate reflection of reality. That minor setback at work? Suddenly, it's a catastrophic disaster in the making. Our brains have this uncanny ability to turn molehills into mountains, all without us even realizing it. 6. Overcoming bias. So, now that we know our brains have a bit of a negativity problem, what can we do about it? Well, it turns out we're not totally at the mercy of our ancient instincts. With a little bit of effort, we can actually retrain our brains to focus more on the positive stuff. It's like teaching an old dog new tricks. Sure, it might take some time and patience, but it's definitely doable. By consciously shifting our focus away from the negative and towards the positive, we can start to see the world in a whole new light. 7. Mindfulness and introspection. Imagine if you had a mental filter, one that could sift through all the thoughts swirling around in your head and separate the useful ones from the not-so-useful ones. That's kind of what mindfulness is all about. By practicing mindfulness, taking a moment to pause, reflect, and tune into our thoughts, we can become more aware of our negativity bias and its impact on our lives. It's like shining a spotlight on the darker corners of our minds, bringing them into the light so we can see them more clearly. 8. Seizing control. At the end of the day, we're the masters of our own destiny. Sure, our brains might have a few glitches here and there, but that doesn't mean we're powerless to change. By taking control of our thoughts and consciously choosing to focus on the positive, we can reshape our reality and create a life that's filled with joy, gratitude, and fulfillment. It's like stepping into the driver's seat of our own lives, steering ourselves towards a brighter, more optimistic future.